As we know, Musk is always up to something. Some crazy projects are always in his head that could totally revolutionize the world. As Elon Musk himself says, it's about believing in the future and thinking that the future will be better than the past. And I can't think of anything more exciting than going out there and being among the stars. So, you must be wondering what the billionaire is up to now. On which project is he working on? Let's find out. SpaceX is developing Starship to take humans and cargo to the Moon, Mars, and other deep space destinations. The system consists of two elements, the huge first stage booster known as Super Heavy, and an upper stage spacecraft called Starship. Let's learn a little more about these systems to have a better understanding about this mission. The 68-meter-long booster stage, called Super Heavy, is powered by 33 Raptor engines. This stage will either return to the launch site or land offshore on a floating platform by powered re-entry and landing. On re-entry of the Super Heavy, the stage is steered by 4 large actuated grid fins, which are designed to control its descent and be caught by the launch tower's pair of mechanical arms in mid-air. The stage has a propellant capacity of 3,300 tons. The second system, the 50-meter-tall Starship upper stage, is also built from stainless steel with a principal diameter of 9 millimeters. This stage is powered by 3 standard Raptor engines and 3 fixed vacuum-optimized Raptor engines. The Starship has a dry mass of 85 tons and has a propellant capacity of 1,200 tons. The ascent payload capacity is 150 tons to low Earth orbit, and it has a return capacity of 50 tons. The Starship re-enters belly first with 2 aft fins and 2 canards providing skydiver-like steering. The Starship comes in different versions as crude ships, cargo ships, and tankers for in-orbit refueling of other Starships. The front part houses either crew compartments, cargo compartments, or tanks. Starships are capable of automated docking. It's also designed to be able to land on both the Moon and Mars. The launch sites are at Boca Chica, Texas, and Cape Canaveral, Florida. When these two systems are fully stacked together, Starship stands taller than the Statue of Liberty at nearly 400 feet. It's also taller than Saturn V, the rocket that sent American astronauts to the Moon during NASA's Apollo program. Mr. Musk has said that Starship is designed to be roughly twice as powerful as the Saturn V. Starship has a wider diameter than other orbital spacecraft, 30 feet, which is meant to make it possible to transport large amounts of cargo or perhaps many people. To get to orbit, Starship sits atop a towering rocket booster that is super heavy. Once the two pieces of the spacecraft move faster through the stresses of Earth's atmosphere, the two parts separate near the edge of space. As Starship continues toward orbit, the super heavy booster that helped it off the ground returns for a landing near its launch pad. A massive tower equipped with mechanical arms, which Elon Musk calls chopsticks, will attempt to grab the descending rocket to softly land, just like chopsticks grabbing noodles. Starship plunges through Earth's atmosphere on its side, which is designed to endure the wicked heat of re-entry, just as the Space Shuttle's underside once did. Shortly before landing, Starship reignites its engines to flip itself vertically for a soft landing. When will Starship go to space? Before we go any further, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. That would help us a lot to keep making content for you. So far, SpaceX has test-launched 5 prototypes of Starship's upper section to an altitude of roughly 6 miles. Only the final prototype successfully stuck a landing. Its predecessors exploded, either on the ground or in flight. But the next chapter in Starship's timeline, reaching orbit, has been slower to start. To get to space, SpaceX needs to debut its Super Heavy booster. It's powered by dozens of Raptor rocket engines, far more than the 3 engines previously flown on past Starship prototypes. The date for Starship's first orbital test flight has been pushed back several times, but Elon Musk says that it will happen soon in this year of 2022. SpaceX had previously aimed to carry out the test last summer, in 2021, then gradually scooted the date back as challenges with Super Heavy's design and lengthy reviews by regulators hampered the company's drive to move fast. Daunting challenges beget any rocket development program. It's the nature of rocket science. SpaceX has faced problems with the production of Raptor, its new rocket engine that will power Starship. Also, before SpaceX can launch Starship to space, the company needs to pass a protracted government review of the environmental impact on the area around the launch site, which is surrounding nature preserves home to endangered species. SpaceX cleared an environmental review in 2014 when it intended to use the site for testing and launching its Falcon 9 rocket. But those plans have changed and expanded drastically over the years with the advent of Starship, prompting a new environmental review. SpaceX's new plans for the area include starting a natural gas plant to source fuel for the ship, installing a solar farm, building parking lots, constructing payload processing facilities, and conducting more test flights, which raise the likelihood of testing explosions that can send debris and forceful shockwaves for miles. SpaceX's Starship site needs a more thorough environmental review. If it does, that could delay the company's progress by months or years. NASA in 2021 gave SpaceX $2.9 billion to develop a version of Starship for the agency's first 2 flights to the moon under Artemis, a multi-billion-dollar human program to return astronauts to the lunar surface. The goal is to make the moon a proving ground as a halt stop for future missions to Mars. The first Starship moonshot will be a test, making the journey without humans to demonstrate its ability to land and return from the moon. The next mission, ambitiously planned for 2025, will carry NASA astronauts to test its ability with humans. But this mission will face many technical hurdles of its own. To get humans to the moon, NASA first needs to successfully demonstrate another giant rocket, the long-delayed Space Launch System. That massive rocket system will fly a crew capsule called Orion to lunar orbit, which will dock with Starship and transfer the astronauts aboard before they head to the lunar surface. SpaceX has successfully flown people to low Earth orbit and docked with the International Space Station with its Crew Dragon capsules. But so far, the company has revealed very little about the systems it's developing to keep astronauts safe during their lunar journey. And even before Starship gets to the moon, it will face unique complexities. SpaceX will have to first launch several tanker starships to space to serve as gas stations for the ultimate moon-bound Starship, which will need extra fuel to land and launch from the lunar surface. That requires a spate of orbital refueling tests, with 2 starships mating in orbit, a technically tricky and risky endeavor. A potentially lucrative portfolio of missions for SpaceX lies at the end of Starship's development phase. Starship is also poised to be the centerpiece of SpaceX's revenue-generating launch business by flying satellites from commercial and government customers. The company says the rocket will be crucial for launching the satellites for SpaceX's satellite internet venture, Starlink. Thousands of more Starlink satellites are needed to complete the constellation. Starship could launch hundreds at a time, up from about 60 that can fit aboard the Falcon 9 rocket. Despite its power and bigger size, the rocket system is intended to be cheaper than the Falcon 9, primarily because of its reusable design. Elon Musk has suggested, without any detailed explanation, that Starship flights could cost as low as $2 million per launch. Each Falcon 9 costs roughly $62 million. The US military has its own concepts for SpaceX rockets. The Air Force in January gave SpaceX $102 million to study using the spacecraft as a cargo ship that could deploy resources to various parts of the world in a matter of minutes, or point-to-point transportation. Potentially, Starship could launch to orbit or re-enter over a particular region to deliver humanitarian supplies or military cargo in a fraction of the time needed by traditional military aircraft. The legality and logistics of such a concept, though, remain uncertain. As for SpaceX, Starship is the future. The success or failure may determine whether the company achieves its dreams. Since 2010, SpaceX has been flying Falcon 9, a rocket with a reusable booster that has become one of the most dominant launch vehicles in the whole globe when it comes to spaceflight. Starship is the next generation, designed as a gigantic and fully reusable rocket system that could cost less and fly more often. Since 2019, the rocket has been steadily emerging as the silvery sentinel in stainless steel, reflecting the sunlight of a South Texas launch site along the Gulf of Mexico. Testing of Starship prototypes has resulted in many failures leading up to a successful flight and landing in May 2021. After a series of premature announcements followed by delays, Elon Musk says 2022 is the year Starship will get to orbit for the first time. But many obstacles remain to be overcome. And then there's the matter of surviving a journey to Mars. Let's see whether we humans colonize on Mars or not in the future. Alright everyone, this brings us to the end of our video. If you liked the video, be sure to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated.